Hey tankers, welcome to episode 31 of our Road to Unicum. Today we review the Batchat. This is the famous tier 10 French autoloader medium tank, and it's my personal favorite tier 10. The tank is defined by its gun. It features a 5-shot autoloader that can dish out 1950 damage, which is enough to clip out most tier 10 medium tanks. The gun has a few mechanics issues. One, the longish clip reload time of just under 40 seconds, the poor accuracy of 0.38, and the long aim time of 2.7 seconds. There's a lot of debate in the Unicum community about which equipment module to mount as a third piece. The options are the enhanced gun laying drive or vents. I've tried both and I feel a little bit more comfortable with the enhanced gun laying drive because the aim time, 2.7 seconds for tier 10 medium, is very long, and that coupled with the long clip reload time as well as the accuracy means you've got to make every shot count. So there are actually more Unicums who prefer vents over gun laying drive. I recommend trying both. Before making this video, I thought that the Batchat had the highest camouflage values. It's actually the third best of the tier 10 mediums, but it is ahead of the popular 140 62A and the squishy fast mediums, the 30B and the Leopard. The Batchat is a classic low floor, high ceiling tank where inexperienced drivers can really struggle to perform with it because of its weaknesses and squishiness, whereas highly skilled and knowledgeable players will be able to do some pretty amazing things with the tank. It is one of the few tanks that I've played where I've been able to average over 2 kills and 2 spots per game, the other tank being the overpowered E25. In this cliff battle, I am platooned with Taugrim, and because they don't have that many medium tanks, we're going to go ahead and rush down the 2 lane. The only problem with this is that when I round the corner, I won't have my clip reloaded yet. So if you're solo pubbing and you go that way and you don't have support, you've got to be really careful because you're going to be vulnerable for that period of time where you're still waiting for your clip to fill up. Initially, it looks like for our deployment that we're very heavy mid, so that entails even more risk for Taugrim and I. If they happen to send 3 or 4 tanks down the 1 and 2 lane, it means that we're going to end up running into some traffic here. However, in a moment, a couple of their heavies are going to divert and come over and provide the sniping support. The T-54 I spotted as I came around the corner, and I did something that I shouldn't have done. I slowed down initially to try to get a good tracking shot on him, but the safest thing to do if you're in a fast medium is come all the way around the corner, come deep into the alcove, and force their tanks, if they want to fire on you, to have to come all the way around the corner and expose themselves to sniper fire back on the 1 and 2 lane. So they don't know, for example, that our E75 and 5120 really aren't in position yet, but there's that intimidation factor. They know if they come around the corner, they're going to have a Batchat who still has a shot left in his clip, as well as the 907, plus any other snipers. I unload the 5th shot as quickly as possible, the first decent shot I have, because I want to reload my clip. It is nice to have landed 4 penetrating shots in the first clip so early in the game, because this gives me the ability to do some spotting and then get that clip filled up again so I can try to clip out another tank. The position where we are isn't already safe, so we need to move around a bit whenever we're spotted. And I'm not taking too many risks here during this long clip reload. Our M41 Bulldog, by the way, if you go back and you watch, he did an awesome job getting a ton of early spots. It looks like he spotted 7 or 8 tanks, and this froze their tanks south of the G lane. So some of their tanks haven't been able to get into the position they might have wanted because they were spotted. And since we have control of this shelf up at F3, they know if they try to move up toward the middle ridge, like around F6 or so, they're going to take flanking fire. If you're watching the minimap, you've probably noticed that the M46 Patton has shown up, and I'm displaying some really horrible tunnel vision here. I'm trying to see if I can get a shot on that JPE 100 since that's such a dangerous tank, but it turns out, he's still hull down, and I need to flex over and help Taugrim. If Taugrim had taken a meaningful amount of damage due to my, tunnel vision and not coming over to help the M46, that totally would have been on me. As it turns out, it's okay because the Patton missed a couple of his shots and then we finish him off. But it's funny, I always talk about in these videos the importance of watching the minimap, and you just saw a very good example of me not doing what I said I should be doing. It's probably the single biggest differentiator between Unicums and non-Unicums is how well they read the game flow and are aware of what's going on. I've been waiting for this tank destroyer to become visible, the FV 4005, because he's super squishy. And you may have wondered if I should have pushed down to try to take out the T-30, and right now we haven't spotted their Death Star or their T-28 Prot, and if I had gone there to try to take out the T-30, I most likely would have failed because I would have gotten smashed by their tank destroyers, including the Death Star. So, it turns out to be a good thing I didn't do that. It's really tempting sometime with a Batchat, and I think this is where a lot of players get themselves into trouble because if you've got 4 or 5 shots in your clip, you have a pretty good chance of clipping out an enemy target, but you have to be really careful about when you do it. And for a squishy autoloader, it's really important to conserve your hit points as long as possible so that you can really carry games late. I am flexing to another position. This gun doesn't have good gun depression. I think it's around 6 degrees, so it's very mediocre, and the tank is also slightly remounted as far as the turret is concerned, and the turret is pretty squishy, so I can't really play hold down games along the F3, F4 area. And there's a bush between me and that LTTB, so he wasn't able to spot me, and my friendly tanks had him lit, so I was able to take my time and fully aim in. There's an opportunity here to flank their tanks that are along the 8 and 9 lanes. They're pushing pretty hard, and once they take out the E5, the only tank we have remaining is the STI, and he's going to get overwhelmed. So I need to push up pretty aggressively and try to get some fire to see if I can save the STI, and thankfully this T-34, even though he's the bottom tier tank, recognizes the situation and is also pushing up. I take a snapshot on the Waffle. It's like one of those things with an autoloader, you gotta be careful about when you snapshot, and I knew because the Waffle's turret was pointing the other way, even if I missed, my next shot would get him. Now, the question is, with the E5 and 155, where are they going? It looked like they had stopped and were coming south, and sure enough, the T-34 spots them, and I was able to get into this ditch and underneath them without them spotting me. So this gives me time to kind of think about what I want to do. I want to go ahead and aim in fully and take out the E5, and then put a shell into the Foch 155. One thing which is hilarious, by the way, so at this point, I had seen the Foch fire once on the STA and then again here on the T-34. So I don't know if he had used the 3rd shell in his clip or if he was on reload, but what I've done with the Batchat numerous times is flanked enemies and harassed them on reload, and I'm taking a risk. I could have gotten shot there if he had a 3rd shell in his clip, but what it allows me to do is sometimes buy time and bail out a friendly player. And we're in an asymmetrical situation in terms of Arty. The friendly Arty is able to fire on their 155, but their Arty can't support him, and even before my clip is fully reloaded, I started to circle strafe and put auto aim on, and then take out the 155. And this is part of what I mean by, it's really important to conserve your hit points and just to be able to carry late. We have a very big advantage in terms of map control because their tank destroyers are all down in the valley, and we've got the advantage of the high ground, and we'll be able to take multiple fields of fire and spotting to keep their tanks lit. Our Waffle is driven by a really good player. That's a player from PBCAC, but he is waiting for me to come. He's wisely waiting until I can spot one of their tanks. Ideally that JPE 100, since he's already taken some shots and can be finished off. He's actually one-shottable, and what's kind of surprising to me here is he actually spotted me, despite the distance and despite his moving around. I'm not really worried about taking a shot on him. I'm mainly just keeping him busy and having a focus toward me, because that will expose his side to our Waffle, who takes him out. Now, if this were a close match, I'm not sure if I would have pushed down immediately like this. Granted, the last 2 tanks that they have that are non-Arty are tank destroyers, and my tank has pretty good camo and is very fast, so I can safely cross the gap here. I've got their 183 lit. He finishes off our Waffle TD, and I've got a few shots in my clip. The first 2 don't penetrate, but he takes a shot from, looks like the 5100, and then my last shot finishes him off. I'm at 7 kills, so I'm only 1 away from the Radley Walters medal, but I've got a long clip reload here, and I go ahead and do the team-oriented thing of spotting their Arty in case our Arty or someone else wants to shoot him. Now, what's really interesting here is, it turns out that our Arty doesn't fire on their Arty, and I asked him about this after the game, and he said he did withhold the shot from me because he knew I was 1 away from getting Radley Walters. I don't ever ask for that 8th kill or 9th kill, but it turns out, player was being very gracious and generous with me. One other thing, you may have noticed that I'm blue. If you're wondering why, I did some team damage to a tier 8 Russian medium tank who kept bumping me and cutting me off and getting my field of fire. I didn't TK him, but obviously I shot him and got turned blue. So I picked up an Ace Tanker Mastery badge. Our platoon did over 10,000 damage and almost got that crucial contribution. We just needed one more kill, although granted, the 11th kill really was a gift from our arty. Next up, we're going to take a look at a pretty interesting replay with the E5 where my team plays very unselfishly and we managed to pull out a win against a pretty good top tier platoon. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.